Hello and welcome to Billy the Batboy's Corner, presented by Up On Game. I'm Billy Pinckney, and today we have Brandon Bailey joining the show. He made it to the big leagues with the Houston Astros a few years ago, but what's so special about him is the story and the journey that he took to get to the major league level. He was doubted along the way, told he wasn't big enough, told by teammates, coaches that probably wasn't the best idea to go the D1 route and to continue on his journey to make to the show, and he proved all of them wrong and he made it. So we're going to hop right in right now to this interview and hear more about Brandon Bailey's story and what inspired him along the way. All right, guys, we're here alongside big league pitcher Brandon Bailey. Brandon, appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you're currently going through some rehab right now, dealing with some injuries, and you accomplished so much in your career, and up to this point you've been doing a great job. But how would you describe this process right now, recovery? You went through a couple different injuries, right?
Yeah, so I had Tommy John, my second Tommy John, actually, in February of 2021, after being traded over from Houston, making my debut during the COVID year. Fully recovered from that, and then was kind of basically on my way back to getting into live action and competition and affiliate ball, and hopefully getting back to the big leagues. And things were looking up. Was setting personal records in terms of velo. Was 94 to 97, so I was pretty optimistic about my progress. Then we had a setback. We strained the flexor mass muscle, which is just basically an origin point of like a few of the different muscles that attach at the medial epicondyle of the elbow. Strained that, had to rehab basically all of 2022, trying to fix that. Got back again to playing shape, went out to the Dominican Republic to try and play winter ball, to try and get back into competition since I'd missed 2 full seasons. And in my first game out there, tore the flexor mass, which required a surgery about 2 weeks ago, and back at the end of November. So currently rehabbing from that. We're a free agent, so it's going to be definitely a very big uphill battle to try and get re-signed. And with back-to-back elbow surgeries and back-to-back years, that's sometimes a tough sell, but all of that's out of my control. All I can do is just try to rehab and get back to 100%, and hopefully a team will be optimistic that I can perform at a high level and help them win.
Absolutely, and this definitely tests your mental toughness, the mental abilities of a pitcher who's going through surgeries. How do you describe how that's been like for you, dealing with this challenge mentally?
It's exhausting. I'm not even going to lie. It's been a really tough past 2 years of my life. Going from an all-time high of making your major league debut with such a historic franchise and talented franchise like the Astros, and watching them win the World Series like 2 weeks ago, and knowing that it was just a very short time ago that I was getting an opportunity to play for that team and play for a team that's the expectation is to win championships, and proving to myself that I was that good, that I was that talented for a brief moment in time. But I think there's a common misconception about professional baseball. Like, the hardest thing is getting to the big leagues. In my personal opinion, the hardest thing is to stay once you get there. Like, obviously only 10% of minor league guys actually get the chance to play in a big league game. But just in my brief taste of it, definitely the more challenging part is sticking up there, just because every single game you're playing against the very, very best players in the world, and what used to be such a simple game sometimes can be very complex, especially at that level. And so yeah, it's been mentally tough to not be able to just be on the field competing and just getting in a routine of playing games again. Basically for the past 2 years, all my life has been is working out, training, rehabbing, trying to get my arm back to 100% to be able to pitch in games. And it just hasn't gone my way, but that's life. The world doesn't stop spinning. I've just got to make the most of the situation that I'm in and keep pushing and trying to get back on the field.
No matter what happens moving forward, you made it to the big leagues and you did what a lot of people said you wouldn't be able to do. And I remember reading a post when you made your debut about how there were people who doubted you along the way and your abilities and everything. I have the quote right here. I'll read it for the viewers who haven't seen it. But you said how you remember high school teammates telling you that you'd never achieve your dream of playing pro ball, travel coaches telling you should go to the JUCO route and not D1 because you weren't as talented as those guys, and remember scouts telling you that you were too small and never be considered a prospect, and you're thankful for those experiences because it motivated you. I mean, right there is what a lot of kids are dealing with as well. People telling them that they're not good enough. How did that motivate you and take that as something that kept you going rather than something that put you down, where you see a lot of kids who might be discouraged with those types of comments?
Yeah, absolutely. At 16, 17 years old, I got a really big reality check of kind of like what, like the real world, kind of how people kind of operate. Just having success at a younger age, having, University of Missouri, Kentucky, Washington State, Gonzaga, ASU, like lots of different schools, reaching out to me and wanting me to make my commitment to go play for them. For me, it was just like a whirlwind of emotions. It's like, I just can't believe like all the hard work that I've been putting in for, basically since I started playing the game, it's paying off. And there's these people that see me as like a legitimate prospect in terms of the college ranks that I can come and help these programs, So it was hard for me at times because especially in high school, your teammates, you'd spend basically like you're in class together. When school day is over, you're going straight to the ball field. You're hanging out with each other, even when you're not at practice, off the field. So that was really an eye-opening experience for me to like realize that my teammates were actually some people that were wanting me to fail, wanting me to like not have the success that I was, because I don't know if it was insecurity. I don't know if it was jealousy, maybe a little bit of both. It was really challenging for me to try and navigate through that of like, these are people that I thought were my friends, and would want like some people that are really close to me that I wanted to support them and have their careers go, as far as they could, and for us to all be successful as a group to try and win a state championship, which is what we ultimately did my junior year in 2012, which was awesome. But it kind of gave me that real life exposure of like, hey, like some of the people that are actually closest to you that you consider as like friends are actually reality, the people that want you to fail or have no success more than anybody else. So that was tough. And then, but I'm appreciative of that because it started to mold me into that mentality of, it's like, I'm trying to take a negative, turn it to a positive. I'm trying to use that energy, that negative feedback that I was getting from people, and use that as motivation to prove them wrong. And at a really young age, that kind of started to mold me into the type of competitor, the type of athlete, and the type of pitcher that I would become. It's like kind of like me versus the world, and it's like truly the only person I can count on is myself and my parents and my immediate family. And I took that as kind of just like always playing with a chip on my shoulder. Then you go into college, or you go into college and you're trying to get recruited by major league teams and having these one-on-one meetings with area scouts, being straight up. It's like, look, I like you a lot, man, but our higher ups straight up said, it's like, if they're not over 6 feet, we're not drafting a pitcher in the first 10 rounds of the draft. It doesn't matter how good they are, so just hearing that is like, okay, like I remember a few of those conversations in those teams specifically. And I definitely made it a point when I was playing their affiliates in minor league ball to try and perform at my very best. There's a little extra motivation there just to prove them wrong, like that these stereotypes that all pitchers have to be 6'4", 6'5", left-handed, projectability, like throw mid-90s, all these things. I wanted to prove a point that, success can come in a variety of different areas, in a variety of different molds. And there's not just like a one trick pony in terms of being successful as a baseball pitcher. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And going back to what you mentioned before about the playing with pro teammates compared to guys who are in high school, and that kind of, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's guys who don't want to see you succeed. I've seen that firsthand too at the professional level. I've worked in pro ball for 10 years. I've seen how teammates interact with each other, and they're supportive for the most part at the professional level. And I've seen it too at the younger levels, the youth level. They're comparing their stats and they're saying, "What did you do? Look what you did there. All this stuff." I'm like, that's just not how it goes, at the pro level. And maybe if there's kids out there who are more mature and understand that's not how you do things, what advice would you tell them on how to navigate that situation when you do have teammates who are like that, and maybe like someone like yourself had to go through?
Yeah, and for me, it's just like I would just say to those kids to be the bigger person, to understand it's like you can't control how other people think. You can't control other people's opinions. You can't control other people's actions. The only thing you're truly control of is yourself, your thoughts, your words, and your work ethic, and how you go about your business. The rest of the stuff, all of that stuff you see on social media, all of the coverage you might get in the newspapers, local blogs, whatever, that are covering your team, it's all just really noise. And at the end of the day, you've got to start to be able to filter out all of the excess kind of nonsense, for lack of a better term, and just truly focus on the task at hand. And that's being successful on the field, being successful in the classroom, being a good person off the field as well. And just trying to rise above that and still be supportive if they're your teammates, because at the end of the day, it's a team game. We're trying to accomplish a common goal as a group. Baseball is kind of unique because it can be very individualized in that sense. When you're out on the pitcher's mound, it's just you, the kind of spotlight's on you. Obviously you have people backing you up, but at the end of the day, your name's kind of going in the box score. But ultimately just try to be the bigger person, try to rise above it and just do everything you can to, if they're being very vocal about wanting you to fail, do everything you possibly can to succeed and prove people wrong, and let your play do the talking.
Did the goals of yours ever make you feel different? Like you had bigger aspirations than others. You knew that you had it in you to get to that level that you wanted to get to, and that really propelled you. Did you ever feel that way?
Absolutely. I knew basically from the time I was 3-4 years old that my ultimate dream was to be a Major League Baseball player. I just fell in love with the game growing up, watching the Colorado Rockies and the Blake Street Bombers and Dante Bichette, Andre Scalaraga, Todd Helton, the list goes, Larry Walker, the list goes on and on. I just fell in love with the game and going to Coors Field and that excitement. It's a new Major League team. We've got this new stadium and everything. I vividly remember just going and just being like immersed and just lost in the sounds and the smells and just the aura, the basically like truly the romantic side of baseball that just like, it was my first love. And I realized, like, especially early on at a very young age, I was very talented. It kind of came easy for me in the sense of just throwing the ball hard, throwing the ball accurately, just having those like kind of like fundamentals that just kind of came very easy to me and naturally. And I knew that in order to be the best version of myself, I had to make sacrifices. I had to make the decision. It's like of truly understanding, like, as time goes on, I'm not going to be the most talented player. As time goes on, there's people that are going to catch up to me or maybe have better genetics in terms of athletic ability and whatnot. And it's like, I have to do everything that I possibly can to continue to grow, to continue to improve, and to continue to separate myself. And that means making sacrifices. It's like, in the sense of that high school temptation of going out and hanging out with friends, going to high school parties, going to, I don't know, in the summertime, taking time off and, doing normal summertime vacation stuff, going to the water theme parks, doing all that stuff, hanging out with your girlfriend. I always made it a point that the only place I wanted to be was on the baseball diamond or getting better. Even to the sense I loved playing basketball. I loved playing football too. But when I got into the high school ranks, I knew that baseball is what I truly wanted to do. And I was willing to make that sacrifice and walk away from those other sports because I wanted to continue to push myself to be a Major League Baseball player. And making those sacrifices, it's tough. You know, you look back on it, and sometimes you do wish you could have those experiences of, you know, playing basketball on a Friday night or under the lights of playing football and that stuff. But I think my decision worked out, and I think that all that work I put into it was all worth it.
You have these abilities earlier on where you might be dominating at the younger levels that you're at, but then once you reach maybe it was college or pro ball, all these guys are at the same competition level or maybe even better than you are. Did you ever have any doubt in your own abilities once you got to that point, or fear of failure? Did any of that ever seep into your mind?
Oh, absolutely. And I'd be lying if I didn't. In college, especially in the United States, you see like a lot of guys that have success are typically basically anybody that's throwing over 92 miles an hour. Most of the time, you're probably going to have some success in college if you can put it anywhere over near the plate. And for me, I had a really great college career, but once I got into the professional ranks and you start playing internationally with some of the Latin American talent, some of these like 16, 18-year-old kids that it's just like, this guy is better than the 22-year-old senior that I was just playing in like 2 months ago, and he's 16. And then also just basically taking the very, very best college players and the very, very best high school players and Latin American players and players all over the world and putting them onto one field. And it's like, dang, like this is truly the cream of the crop. But then you have that decision to make, right? A lot of guys can be like uncomfortable with the idea. It's like, I'm not the alpha male. The game's not coming as easy for me as it used to be. Like, and not make any adjustments, not make any changes to their work ethic, to their training schedule, to kind of how they go about their business in terms of game preparation. Maybe it's more scouting. Maybe it's like personal evaluation of like truly looking at what are my efficiencies, what are my deficiencies as an athlete, what do I need to improve upon, and actually going above and beyond to try and put that work in. There's a fork in the road for a lot of guys, and for me, I was like open to that challenge. It was humbling for sure, but it was also very motivating. It was just like, I see so many guys that are like really good at a lot of different things, but I'm also really good at some stuff too, and it's like I've got to continue to improve upon that skill set, but then also just attack my deficiencies in a way that is going to help mold me into the big leaguer that I want to become. And, again, it's just that having that mindset really propelled me into maybe even some might say overachieving what the expectations were for me as a professional athlete.
I think a lot of guys need that too, especially when they might have these egos earlier on where they think they're the best, but then they reach this level and they're like, oh, wow, it's a reality check for them. There's guys around me who are able to get the job done as well and compete against me at a high level. But for you, knowing your body, knowing what you could handle, how important was it for you to tailor your training and your programs with your body and what you're supposed to do? Being a guy who's 5'10", not somebody who's 6'5", 6'8". What did you really try to focus on in order to get as much as you can moving towards the plate and get as much as you can on your fastball?
I think especially in like high school, college ranks, I kind of grew up in a time still where, data collection and a lot of the technologies that are just kind of like normalized today weren't prevalent at that point in time. So it's still a lot of the old school analogies, the old school training methodologies, and just the verbal feedback that you're getting from coaches. But I think, if I'm being honest, like up until I finally got traded over to the Houston Astros, it wasn't up until that point that I had a true sit down talk with really bright-minded professionals in the pitching industry, and like had a true full breakdown of me as a pitcher and an evaluation of like what I'm good at, what I'm bad at, what I need to improve upon, and a direct roadmap of how I'm going to make it to the big leagues. I think I kind of just coasted off of my athletic ability and kind of who I was as a pitcher, basically up until I was 22, 23 years old. even through my first year and a half with the Oakland A's, I remember openly having a conversation with the pitching coordinator and the rest of like the incoming draftees that were pitchers, and they were kind of very open. It's like, look, our philosophy is we don't really want to change you guys or make any like drastic adjustments to your mechanics, to your arsenal, to your like attack plan until we visually see you starting to struggle in the professional ranks, which I think there's something to be said to that. That's sometimes a good approach for guys, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of, for instance, like, Shane Bieber flew through the minor league ranks. I'm pretty sure like the Cleveland, they probably didn't have to do very much in terms of tweaking with him and adjusting him into helping him become the athlete that he was. Some guys just got it. It's more so just like the best coaching policy is just kind of get out of their way and just kind of let them do their thing and always be there for support if they need you. But when I got traded over to Houston, I remember just the full breakdown. It's like, this is when the Astros had just won the World Series, and they were just kind of like really at the pinnacle of like Major League Baseball player development. And they still are to this day. Just the stuff that we were doing over there comparatively to other organizations I've been a part of were just night and day. But I remember sitting down with Chris Holt, who's the Major League pitching coach for the Orioles, and Josh Miller, who's now the pitching coach for the Astros now. They were the two minor league pitching coordinators at the time in 2018 for Houston, and they basically broke it down. It's like your fastball is like in the top, like in the 95th percentile, just in terms of like the break plot, in terms of like spin rate, and just in terms of like vertical approach angle, like all these like terminologies and like words that it's like I'd never really heard before up to that point. And they were like, you need to throw this pitch more. If you can add velo to it, it could be one of the best pitches in baseball. Your changeups, graded out is like a 60, 65 grade. You don't throw it nearly enough, and it's like you have no breaking ball. We need to start from scratch there. It sucks. You're super slow to the plate. Like, you're a 1-4 right now. That's just not going to cut it at the big league level. It's like mechanically, these are some that we feel like could help you just move a little bit more efficiency and like help you repeat your mechanics, help you consistently sync up with your release point, throw more strikes, add a couple of miles an hour. So like just this like super in-depth breakdown of me as a pitcher. And it's like, up until that point, like I knew I was like, I always feel like my fastball like trends up, even though I'm like 92, 93. I don't know why. I had no understanding of why it was good. I always felt like my breaking balls were kind of below average. Like all of this was like exactly, I was like, yes, this is like the approach plan or the development plan that I've been craving, because it's like I know like what I need to do, I just didn't know how to do it. And in my 3-4 years of playing with the Astros, I'm forever grateful, because it truly was like I would not be a Major League Baseball player if it wasn't for guys like Bill Murphy, Drew French, Graham Johnson, Chris Holt. Like the list goes on and on, but like people that were involved in the pitching development, player development staff over in Houston, like truly, like I would have probably maybe I would have just by like on talent alone, or just like simply my drive to improve as an athlete. But those types of names, that organization truly did help me propel me into the pitcher that I am today. And for that, I'm forever grateful.
Great stuff. Before I let you go, I got to ask you, you've been facing Eric Sim, right?
Yeah, I was before I left for the DR and had my injury to my flexor mass. But yeah, I was consistently throwing over there at close to the public.
Be honest with me, is he an easy out?
No, actually, he's not. And I think that's like popular opinion, because like Momentum and Eric do such a great job of like putting out baseball content that is like one, funny, two, like entertaining for people to watch. But like when like Eric is trying, like, and he's actually, and I'm like, hey, like, I'm trying to get back into the field playing, like try to take this like seriously, like we're having like an at bat right now. He puts good swings on the ball, and he's not a comfortable guy to have in there because he's swinging as hard as he can. And there are people that do that at the big league level. You know what I mean? And it's like, if you make a mistake and he makes contact, it's going to go, and it's going to go far. So I think if I was facing Eric like in a game type situation, he would not see a fastball, which is kind of what might expose him a little bit more so. But no, he's not an easy out, but he is fun to strike out. I will say that it's one of the hitters that I really, really have enjoyed facing. Just because striking him out, he gets so mad and gets so frustrated. It's very satisfying.
Great stuff, man. Brandon, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you. Some great stuff for the younger players out there to help them out, and thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
We'd like to thank you for checking out this episode of Billy the Bat Boy's Corner, presented by Up On Game. Another inspirational story right there. Somebody who persevered through adversity, someone who heard a lot of negativity, a lot of noise from the outside, and that didn't allow him to deviate from his goal of making to the big leagues. He had that set in his mind that he was going to do it, and he went ahead and did it. So we'd like to thank him for coming on. And if you'd like to learn more about what we're doing here with Billy the Bat Boy's Corner and Up On Game Network, be sure to follow on social media at Billy the Bat Boy, at Up On Game Network. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe. We're supporting the Fowler English Center in Paterson, New Jersey, helping the community and helping the youth ball players out there as well. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time here on the show.